Welcome to Health, Wellbeing and Lifestyle, where experts in the field inform, educate and inspire the community to be healthier, more balanced and live the lifestyle they love. Our first guest today, Anthony Kilner, is a psychic medium and author, and the topic we'll be discussing is how dreams help us in everyday life. Welcome, Anthony.
Thanks for having me, Megan.
So, Anthony, what is a dream and why is it important?
Everybody dreams. Animals dream. People have been dreaming for centuries. And a dream is a message that comes down from your soul collective. So it's the sum of all your souls together through what we call the superconsciousness to our subconsciousness. And then we have that dream during the night or during our sleep state. So it doesn't have to happen just at night. And then that comes to our consciousness and we have to interpret that. And the way we interpret that is, if we have subjective, it means it needs interpretation, and that's what a dream is based around. If it's objective, it's real. And so where we look at what happens with a dream is, it comes through as a message, and it'll be quite often muted in colour. For older people, I normally say it's like a black and white cartoon on a colour TV. It's muted. You tend to watch it rather than be a part of it. And it's a message for you to help you to move forward. So why it helps you in everyday life is being able to interpret that message. And people like Sigmund Freud and Jung all specialised in trying to work out what these interpretations were and are and how they can then help the person. And sort of skipping forward, we just have a broader interpretation now, because there's so many more distractions in our lives. So there's so many more things in our minds that the message can work with. So how it helps us in our everyday life is it gives us an understanding of what's happening around us. And so we take that understanding and we change our lives accordingly, and then of course that dream will go away. The part of that that's really important to note is that we have to interpret what it means to get the best out of it. So for example, you have a dream where you see yourself driving along a road. You can't quite see the colour of the car, but let's say it's blue. And you get a sense that it's blue. And you're driving along the road and you go off the road, and then it gets rougher and rougher, and you start climbing up a mountain, and you get to the top of the mountain, and in the distance you can just see the sun coming up. And you think, wow, what does all that mean? It's a bit interesting. So what it really means is, in the person's direction, represented by the vehicle, there's a lot of communication issues that are coming up for them, represented by the blue of the vehicle. Going from the smooth road to the rough road means that there's going to be a situation in their life that requires some really good, solid interpretation and communication with, to help them get to the top of the hill. When they get to the top of the hill and they see the sunrise coming up, then what that means is that they've got there, they've done the work, everything's getting better, and from there on in it's a lot smoother. So it's all those little things like that. Now it can also, in a dream, you might see yourself with a loved one or with family and friends. And so you have to interpret, what does that mean? And quite often, instead of it being the family or the friends, it means aspects within yourself need to be addressed. So for example, you might have a dream where your mum's there and your mum's telling you to cook this food in a specific way. And there's a lot of anger around it and pots going everywhere. It's not your mum as such. It's her energy that you hold within you, and about how you are looking after yourself on a nutritional level. And that the anger and frustration that's within you is showing and coming out, and you need to let that come out and look after yourself properly. So it's really quite intricate. In the more detail you get, the more you can actually interpret to help you to move forward in life.
What happens when we have a reoccurring dream, and how can we change that?
Reoccurring dreams, Megan, are really interesting because it means the person's not understanding the message that they're getting from their original dream. And so it keeps getting worse and worse and worse until we actually take note of what that dream is. And so the way to deal with them is really interesting, because we quite often, people will say to me, oh, they've remembered the same dream over and over and over and over again. Well, that's their soul telling them they have to change, and most people get to a point they don't want to change. So the dream gets nastier and nastier. The really good thing about how to deal with them is take note of all the details in that dream, see how it works in your life, and then make a change. And once you make that change, the dream quite often goes away. It might lessen down because you've only made part of the change. It really, if we're talking about our soul collective giving us those messages, that's because they've got our best interests at heart. And if everything was all beautiful and fluffy and light, we'd never change. So it has to get graphic, because otherwise people aren't going to take any notice of it. And that's the way to deal with it.
What tips can you offer for our viewers in terms of them looking at their own dreams?
Well, there are quite a few tips we can really suggest. The first one is go to bed with a pen and paper. As soon as you wake up or you come back from that dream, write down as much detail as possible. Because when it comes to interpreting that information, the more detail, the more accurate a person can work it out. All right, so that's the first big tip. The second tip I say to people is to be open to what's coming through and then establish sort of the differences. And so to do that, you need a really good book or reference material that explains what does a house represent, what does a car represent, what are all the different aspects of things subjectively and how they're interpreted, even down to colour. So good reference material, good dream interpretation book will make a big difference. The last tip would be to go and see somebody that specialises in dream interpretation, because there is a big difference between dreaming and astral travel. And so a good interpretation will tell you, oh, that was that, this is the dream, this is how to get yourself back on to track with the right information. And that's probably the most important thing. If you can't work it out yourself, go and see someone that can help you. That will help you get your life back on track.
Thanks, Anthony. That's such great information. If you'd like to know more about Anthony Kilner and how dreams help us in our everyday lives, please go to his webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And after the break, we have another interesting guest with another interesting topic.
Stay tuned. After the break, mindset coach Sharee Shefket will be talking about how to recognise the signs of burnout.
Welcome back. Our second guest is mindset coach Sharee Shefket, and we'll be discussing how to recognise the signs of burnout. Welcome, Sharee.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
I just want to know, what exactly is burnout?
Burnout is basically a mental and physical exhaustion, and it's usually work related. So it's because the pressure of the work environment has got to that person and it's now affecting them mentally and physically. So there's obviously mental and physical symptoms with burnout. So they will have a symptom of apathy, they might be cynical, they will have some physical symptoms, especially if they're working 9 to 5. They might have a really great weekend, and then that Sunday dread will come along, and so they start to feel like, oh, I don't want to go to work tomorrow, because that build up stress in their body is just overwhelming. So they have this also where they just don't care anymore, and it's like they're on autopilot in their work, so they're doing what they have to do, all the tasks, but they're not really present. Like if there's a meeting, for instance, they're just going through the motions of that task. They're not really adding value to their job. And so what happens is that over time, that person don't have any passion left, and they start to feel withdrawn. They might not want to talk to their co-workers. They will maybe more irritable and snap at their co-workers for asking a silly question. But it's also a lot of stigma around burnout. So I'll give you an example as well of how I experienced burnout, and later on in life how I was able to recognise the symptoms. So when I was about 20 years old, I was studying, I was working full time, 2 jobs, the whole bit, trying to save up as much money as possible. That was my goal. And at the start, I was thriving. I was like, I could do this, I'm young, I've got the energy, I can do it all. But after some time, it obviously caught up with me, and I was literally exhausted. I would sleep and I'd get up and I felt still exhausted. I'm like, well, what is it? Like, why do I feel so tired? And I'm usually a very happy, smiley kind of person, and I just didn't have the energy. I was just doing the bare minimum I had to do because I was just so exhausted. And I recognised that this is just, something's right, I need a rest. So I approached my manager at the time and said, listen, I'm not coming in tomorrow. I'm literally exhausted. I just feel like I need a break. I just need to go do something fun and just get out of here. And I just had this emotional outburst, and that's another symptom. I was uncontrollably crying. I've never done that before, just started crying out of nowhere. But I was just so tired. And after that, I took that break. I made some drastic changes where I decided that money wasn't as important and my self-care was, and I left that position. So that's when I decided that I'm going to now make some changes, because I hadn't experienced burnout yet. I was just recognising the symptoms, and that's what's really important.
It sounds quite similar to depression. So what is the difference between burnout, depression and stress?
Great question. So let's talk about stress first. So stress can be quite beneficial sometimes. So for example, if you've got a big task to do, like a dinner party for instance, and you've got a bit of stress happening, it's just excitement a little bit, and it gets you under the pump, and it could be quite useful sometimes. When stress becomes chronic, that can lead to burnout, and that's what we're trying to avoid. Now let's look at depression. Now depression is a mood disorder. So with depression, it's total apathy, a sense of hopelessness, a lot more physical and mental symptoms happening with depression, and it will seep through all areas of your life. Whereas burnout will be more confined into the workplace. It can also affect your personal life, but not so much. So someone who's, say, experiencing burnout might love their weekend, but they'll have that dread on that Sunday night leading back to work. Where someone who's depressed, it doesn't matter what day it is. And the difference between someone who's experiencing burnout and depression is that chronic stress. So I could take someone who is experiencing burnout and take them to the Greek islands, pamper them all day, have massages, cocktails, have some vitamin D, having that gorgeous weather, and they will start to go back into themselves and feel less stress. That nervous system starts calming down, and you'll say to them, okay, when you come back to work, we've offloaded half your tasks, so you're not going to feel as overwhelmed, and that person will be able to start to enjoy their career again. Not so much with depression. I could take them to the same person to the Greek islands. It doesn't really matter, that mood disorder. But burnout can lead to depression, something that needs to be concerned about, that we don't want that to happen at all.
So what are some tips then to prevent burnout?
The biggest prevention is self-care. When you're in a workplace, you might be allocated an allowance for a therapist, and a lot of workplaces now encourage, because they recognise that burnout is a problem in the workplace. So there are free resources if you have a 9-to-5 type of employment and have access to that therapist, which is fantastic, and I recommend utilising that. And you don't even have to tell your manager because of the stigma. You might just say, I just want to organise this session, and it's usually confidential, which is great in terms of arranging that session. Now, if you're self-employed, obviously you don't have those resources in place, so you can obviously find your own therapist, which is fantastic, but also implement a lot of self-care. What is it that you like to do? Do you connect with people? Are you doing any healthy habits? Are you taking regular breaks? Are you maybe doing some meditation? So have a look and see how much self-care are you doing during the week, because when you are self-employed, you become a little bit obsessed with your business to recognize the symptoms before it manifests into burnout. Prevention is key.
Thank you so much for your advice on that topic. If you'd like to know more about Sharee and the signs and symptoms of burnout, you can visit Sharee's webpage via our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. After the break, we'll be back with another guest and another interesting conversation.
Stay tuned. After the break, Lifestyle GP Dr. Avi Charlton will be talking about the health benefits of functional breathing. Welcome back. Our last guest today is Lifestyle GP Dr. Avi Charlton, and we will be talking about the health benefits of functional breathing. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me again, Stephanie.
Dr. Avi, what is functional breathing and what are the health benefits of it?
To understand functional breathing, we've got to understand dysfunctional breathing. Dysfunctional breathing means not breathing properly. What happens is if we don't breathe properly, we can get more anxious, we suffer from palpitations, and if we use our mouth to breathe a lot, then we yawn a lot and we feel like we need to take big breaths all the time. We feel like we're not getting enough air, we feel short of breath. What happens when people don't breathe properly is they might not sleep properly as well. Sometimes some people snore and then they use their mouth for breathing rather than the nose for breathing. Then they don't sleep well. They wake up not having enough energy and it becomes a vicious cycle. Then they don't breathe well during the day. They feel like they're short of breath. They feel anxious and they don't have enough energy to perform in the day-to-day activities. There's signs that can tell you that if you're not breathing properly, you might yawn, you might feel short of breath and you feel like you're gasping for air. Sometimes you get palpitations or even reflux.
How can our viewers use breathing to improve their health?
So there's a few little things and then there's a few breathing exercises that we can do. What we can do is we can practice breathing light, breathing slow and breathing deep. So I'll elaborate each tip. Breathing light means we don't take big, huge breaths all the time, and practicing breathing less amplitude breathing, light breathing. What that can do is that can tell your body to hold more carbon dioxide, and there's a little bit of science to it that it actually tells your oxygen to get into your body, the brain, the muscles more. So light breathing improves our carbon dioxide tolerance. Deep breathing means we practice breathing into the diaphragm. What we can do is we can practice getting our hands to feel our rib cage. If we breathe into our rib cage, our ribs will come out and then our belly will go out. As we breathe out, our rib cage will go in and our belly will go in. So we practice deep breathing into our diaphragm as feeling our rib cage go out. So there's breathing light, breathing deep and breathing slow. So what we can do is we can practice slowing down our breathing. We can do breathing exercises that involve slowing down. If you're new to this, you can do counts, breathing in for 3 and out for 3, breathing exercises. Then if you get better at it, you can breathe in for 4, out for 4, or even in for 5 and building up to as long as you can, as you tolerate on breathing exercises. Then there's breath holding exercises that you can slowly incorporate into your life. There's a technique called box breathing. Box breathing means that you take a breath in for 4 counts, and then hold for 4 counts, and then out for 4 counts, and then hold again for 4 counts. And then if you can do 4 counts, you can increase it to 5 counts or even 6 counts. This technique is used by the Navy SEALs to slow down their anxiety, calm them down, and that can improve their mental health. That helps to improve our breathing and reduce anxiety, improve our well-being as well. Then there's lots of other breath holding exercises that we can practice. Let's say you're going out for a walk, you can do some breath holding. If you're new at it, you can hold, pinching your nose for 10 steps, and then you can release and walk 10 steps. Then you can repeat it again 5 or 6 times, doing breath holding exercises. As you get better, you can increase it to 15 steps or even 20 steps. Then that helps to tell our body that we can hold on to carbon dioxide more. Then your body can learn to tolerate higher carbon dioxides. That actually gets your body, your muscles, and your brain to have more oxygen delivered. That in turn improve your mental health, improve cognition, and you function better. The more we breathe through your nose, the more you breathe through your nose at night when you're sleeping as well. We also talk about using mouth tape to tape your mouth so you don't breathe through your mouth at night, especially for those who don't know if you're breathing through your mouth at night. And some people worry about that they will suffocate if they're breathing through, if they have their mouth taped. There are lots of different mouth tapes. Some of them have a little slit that doesn't cover their mouth, and that might help you to get used to a mouth tape and practice breathing more nose breathing. In turn, that can help with better sleep and better function during the day. With children, what happens if the children breathing through their mouth is they can get facial development problems. If they breathe through their mouth too much, the jaw development isn't quite right, and they can get facial development problems, receding jaws, and they're more likely to need orthodontic treatment, braces. So what parents can do is they can remind their children to breathe through the nose more often, all the time. And even at night, they can mouth tape the kids. They might have to get used to it, and you can get special mouth tapes that has a slit in the middle. And there are exercises called buteyko exercises that their mothers can do games with the children, practice more nose breathing and even breath holding. What I suggest is people can seek help with professionals who are trained in breath work and breathing exercises, who talk about how to breathe functionally. So we can get the right guidance to talk about functional breathing, get the right exercises for breath work. In that way, you can get the right advice on how to breathe properly.
Great. I'm going to be checking my breath for the rest of the day.
That's great.
Thank you for that information.
Thank you, Stephanie.
If you would like to know more about functional breathing and Dr. Avi Charlton, please visit her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. That's all we have time for today. Goodbye until next week.
If you'd like to know more about our show, please like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.